It's just crazy, like how they lie to everyone that leaves, like, oh, she hit her goals. She hit her goals, so she's gone. No, I was wildly unhappy and depressed.
You kind of set this whole thing in motion. You saw the film. You reached out to us. You obviously wanted to tell your story, and this kind of began the idea of this web series follow up. So I just kind of want to give you ask you some questions about your background first. So how did you first get involved in the business?
For me, I was just getting out of college. I was 21, I think. So I kind of had like the low break even aspect. I was getting out of, I graduated with an English degree. And then everything kind of like hit home where, when they were saying in the meetings specifically like, oh, it's so hard to get a job, to get out there and all these things. So like when I was sitting in a meeting, it was like speaking to me. And I had just like the same type of aspect where people were like, oh, well, you don't have too much on your resume. We can offer you, you know, 24 grand to start, 30 grand. And I'm like, nah. And then I run into like this type of opportunity and it's like, oh, well, of course you're going to be making a little bit here, but now, in 6 to 9 months, you could be making 75K and you're like, oh, wait. And I'm getting like bamboozled. That's kind of how it all started with me not being able to really get a job and, so to speak, desperate for one and just wanting to get my foot in the door and get started. And my family, as they own their own businesses, and so they automatically thought it was like a red flag, but I was like, no, it's like a thing for me to be able to be an entrepreneur. And so I was just like selling the whole entrepreneurship of like, hearing those stories from a young age of like my dad, like having to live at home and, being, walking to work and now he's super successful. And so all these things that are happening are like this manipulation of you owning your own business and they literally can hit home and have these meetings about like a Steve Jobs or, someone from Amazon living in a shoebox and then being able to make it, but really you don't own your own business. So it's all fake. I look back and there's so many red flags and I'm sure that you felt the same way. You don't know what Smart Circle is until you go to like a leaders meeting and in Dallas and you're like, well, for me, it was like I was able to go to Jamaica and I had no idea what Smart Circle was until I saw Smart Circle signs. And I'm like, wait, what's Smart Circle? Wait, am I with Smart Circle? Is that what's going on? Okay. Then I'm like, just like put it back in the back of your head. It's okay. It's okay. And you just like kind of like let these red flags just wash over you and you just want to believe it so bad. And I think it's also from just they try to pick out young people and that's exactly what they taught me to do when I'm interviewing for people like that have the right mentality. And I came in at the same time with another guy who ended up getting promoted to Alabama. And, we both started and we both like made a competition, like week one, like we were going to, like who was going to win to be able to get to ownership. So I still had no idea what was going on, but because I had that competition, I was like, I'm going to beat him. And that's kind of how it all started. And then we ended up changing the entire office and it turned into like this amazing atmosphere, amazing office. We were able to like be a part of it and watch it grow. And so it was really cool to be able to see that happen. And I still had no idea what it was really all about just because I was working a lot, but I knew I wasn't getting paid a lot, but it didn't really matter because I was living at home. And I liked the idea of seeing that I was going to be successful. And I really thought that I was going to be able to make a lot of money.
Sure. Kind of take me through that conversation where you said you kind of turned this office around. Take me through that when you did get to the point where you were going to get promoted to owner.
Yeah, so I had, I don't know how many leaders on my team, maybe 9 or 10.
Wow.
Yeah, it just grew so quickly. It was me and the other guy. We were pretty much like, it just got so pumped up and it was awesome. But when it came to, I thought that I wanted to stay in Miami, Fort Lauderdale area. Because we weren't technically actually in Miami because it's too expensive to have your office there. They just said that. But it was like in like some little place in Davie.
Oh yeah,
you know.
Yeah. I worked out of Chicago, and the offices I worked for were nowhere near downtown Chicago.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
like they just called him like Miami this. So it's like, no, it's not that. And Miami's so much further away. But I wanted to run everything. I had my boyfriend down here, and I told him that I wasn't going to move. And when I got promoted, they were like, you have to move. And you're already kind of like so far deep in. Like, they didn't tell me until I was an assistant manager. I was working my ass off to like get there. And then it's like a month later of working my ass off as an assistant manager, and they're like, oh, I'm sorry, like, we can't split the Miami territory. And you're going to have to go somewhere else. But luckily, Orlando just opened because an owner just shut down. So we can actually have you go to Orlando, and it's super close because at first it was Jacksonville, which is 5 hours away. And I was like, oh my goodness, like, how am I going to do this long distance with my boyfriend? Because he was like, he does real estate. So he's like, I can't just pick up my life and move with you. Like, we have to do long distance. And they told me it would only be for like a very short period of time. And then once BJ's and Costco opened up, then I'd be able to come back to Miami and, do that. So then Orlando opened up and I was able to go there. But, that really put a lot of stress on my relationship. And that's why, watching the whole documentary, it was like, you're married, and how much stress it put on with you, it put on the same thing with me.
Yeah.
And my relationship like was seriously failing. Like I had no relationship. Like, that's pretty much what it was. I felt like a robot.
So you mentioned a couple times the word red flags. And in your email to us, you stated that you were in the business for about 3 years. So when did you start having doubts? When did you start seeing those red flags and paying attention to them instead of just dismissing them like so many do?
For me, I was an owner, and I hit my year as an owner. Like, it's pretty crazy, like, to think about how long it took me, and like that's what I struggle with at times. Is it's just really mind-boggling to, like, I read like bad reviews, and it just went through me. And even my friends, like, we would read them and be like, yeah, right. Like, that's how brainwashing it was. And I can't believe it. It bothers me, but it was a year. I hit my year of being an owner, and I was miserable. I was in the field. It was like the worst day of my life. I felt like I was like throwing up. I was really sick, and I had to go into the field because someone called out. And I was celebrating my year in business, and I didn't feel good. And I was standing inside of a Sam's Club, and I was like, oh my God, like, what is happening? Like, all these things that they said, like, when you're an owner, you're going to have more time to be able to like do this. You can have free time, and instead I'm like struggling to be able to find people to come to all my shows and be there. And I'm there myself after I've just interviewed people that I don't even care about, that are all not going to be able to last another 2 weeks anyways. And I'm just going to have to keep interviewing constantly. And so it really took me to get to my year of ownership to like realize that I wasn't happy. And I was just faking it this whole entire time, and like just lying to myself. And then finally when it hit, it was just like, I also got on another call. So that was the first one, was the year, the day. And that was in October. And then I didn't promote anyone out. I always got super close. I was on this call that I was on like pretty much a year before that. And it was with an owner in Chicago. Or if you haven't promoted anyone, you have to be on a call again. So I didn't know. And then like, whatever. So I'm on the call, and it literally was the exact same call from a year ago. And I was like, wait a second. She's saying the same thing. Like, we don't have 100 donors yet. You guys are our people that are going to push us to get to 100 and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, wait, this was a year ago. This was a year ago. So like that hit. And so now I'm looking at it from more of like a different angle. I'm like, what's going on? And then they're telling me how I should be spending my money, where I should be putting it. And when I didn't want to do that anymore, then they would be coming to my office and then they would be like blowing us up on phone calls and saying like, oh, this person isn't doing this and that and this and that. This is what I noticed. And you could tell that it was about you, but it's because you're not listening to them of how you want to allocate your money. And it's your money, but they want to manipulate you how you need to spend it. And if you don't do that, then you're going to be treated like crap. So that was another one that I just started saying no, that I didn't want to send people to different cities that were going to probably quit in a month from being worn out. And then I just wasted $5,000 for them to go get trained, probably vomit. Who knows who the trainer is? And I'm paying for their room and board to be able to stay somewhere. And then they fly back and then they decide to quit, which happens a lot. Also, I went to dinner. It was my birthday. I went to dinner with my family. They came up and visited me in Orlando because I couldn't go down there. And my promoting owner, that obviously wasn't the one for Miami, but now in Missouri, I invited her to come with me because she was watching my office with me and like taking notes. And I was going to go to Disney with my boyfriend the next weekend, and she made a comment like, you should be working. And my dad was like, she needs to enjoy her life too. She's working so much. She doesn't need to just be working all the time. And while she was there, she was like on her phone and she kept walking outside and, you know, kept answering different things. And she just had a different mindset. And my dad was like, who are these people that you're with? Like, they're so obsessed with work. What is wrong with them?
Yeah.
So these were all things that started clicking, but it was after a year of me being in ownership.
Now, did you ever think in any of those times when people were telling you what to do with your money and your time and whatnot, did the thought of, wait, I own my own business, shouldn't I have freedom? Like something to that extent ever cross your mind?
So at first, like when you first open up, they like basically pay your whole month is like paid for. And basically I had a good team that came out with me. And in like 6 months, I made 50 grand. So it was like, woo, it's right, it's true. Like it actually, like it makes this like thing believable. And so I never passed 50 grand. That's the difference. You know what I mean? So you hit this mark, and then all of a sudden all your good guys are like so worn out, they start quitting. Like you make more percentages in the beginning when you're an owner. They give you like 30%, no, 40%, and you don't have to pay like any monthly costs. That's what your owner pays for you. So you make a lot of money very quickly, and then the shit hits the fan. And then you never are able to like overcross that. So when they're like giving you advice, when you've already like made all this money, you're like, okay. And that's why you start like agreeing with them. And then after that, you start realizing like, wait a minute, like this isn't actually working. Now, for some things it would work and they'd be like, oh, it's like law of averages. So sometimes it's not going to work. You know, of course you're going to send out a person, they're going to quit, but like you can't give up on that because, you know, just because it didn't happen for one person, look, it happened for this person. You saw it happen for this person. So, you know, you're going to be able to make mistakes, but you're going to learn along the way of who's right and who's wrong. And so that's why it took me a little bit longer, because like the way that they manipulate is the same exact way that you're taught to be able to talk in the field or anything like that. And that was kind of all transcending to me. It took me a while to actually realize that I was like being manipulated for every single conversation that was had. I thought that some people were my actual friends giving me advice that I'd be calling, and they weren't my friends. They were just going through the manipulation scale. And that took me a while to realize.
Yeah, one of the interviews in the film said something to the extent of, they teach you how to sell, but they sell the job to you. So it doesn't matter if you're a leader or an owner or how high you get. They're still selling that to you as if you're a customer, basically. So you said that after 6 months, like you never made any more than the 50. So even though, let's say, like your sales were solid and everything like that, you were getting a lot of team members in there, you still weren't making the money. How did that happen?
Well, actually, what normally, like, this is like a normal thing that happens. So, my entire original team, I had to fire one of them because she just was standing there all the time. And, like, I think it's funny now. Like, of course, like, you're done. I get it. Um, but yeah, she would just be standing there and like not doing anything. And then it kind of like made everyone do that because everyone would be like, well, she's not. And I never wanted to fire her because we all lived together and it was like, this is really hard. So she always hung out with me and my family whenever they came to town. So it like everyone higher up was like, you have to let her go. And she technically had enough to be able to get promoted to assistant manager, but the higher ups, they were like, you can't technically promote her because she's not making like 600 net, whatever. Like she has to get that like for a whole rotation and then you can. And like you have to understand this because it's your investment and like blah, blah, blah. Well, me listening to them, and this is also like another thing that kind of also like made me think after it happened, like looking back. But they were like, if she can't get it, like we can't promote her. Like you're gonna have to let her go. Like she's been around for too long, blah blah blah. So I ended up letting her go, which was the worst mistake that I made in my business because she built so many relationships with everybody. And people couldn't believe that I was letting go of someone that had leaders on their team and just wasn't hitting the sales when it wasn't about sales. So everyone quit. Like I literally had like 15 strong people in my office and everyone just said peace out. And I had 2 people left. Like that was it. So from there, that 50 grand had to be spent to when new people came, sending them out, sending trainers in. So I had people staffing my shows that were training new people. So it was like housing them, doing all this stuff. And that adds up as quicker than you can think because you give up your shows. So you don't make any money on your shows. You pay for the people to come fly out. That's why most people are like staying with you because owners can't pay for them to also have a hotel because that all adds up as well. So like they're sleeping on your couch, you're doing whatever you can to survive and not pay like so much money for you to have these people and also not making money off of them. Plus you're paying your guy and if they have bad days, like you're paying minimum wage, you're paying all these extra things that are just a lot to handle. So your money goes by quicker than you think. You can make 50 again as quick as you can lose it. But for real, like you lose money so fast. And that's when and they keep telling you, you need to do this, you need to do that. And when you're actually on the downward trend and not the upward trend, you start thinking more. You're like, wait, I'm not on this high anymore. I actually feel like crap. So how can I like save this money and how can I keep it because it's just 7 grand is going. This is happening with trainers, and now you're only running 2 shows, and those 2 shows are the ones that put your lights on, and you're done. So that's kind of how it really happened.
I want to clarify a couple of things you emailed us about. So you said your promoting owner opened up your new office, and then to quote you, a few months after spending 20K on each of us as an investment he would get back, they shut him down based off of compliance. So can you kind of tell me, I know you talked about economics a little bit, some of the financial aspects of a promoting owner, because I'm assuming that's what you were talking about. He invested in you
Right.
and
So
opening up somebody.
right. So basically, I think it was 20 grand in total. Not each. I'm sorry for my writing. I was just like avidly writing after I wrote.
That's
After
fine.
I watched that, I was like, oh my god. That was but yeah, so 20 grand in total. Because it's about like 10 grand to open someone up. Basically, when they get promoted to assistant management, you start paying. well, he did, and they said, oh, you shouldn't have done that. But he started paying for our website and everything. Like our social media was already up like months before we got an actual office. So like we already had our branding, we already had everything going. And that's to be able to get the website. I forgot how much it all is, but it's like 125 a week or something. So he was paying double because we were both assistant managers at the same time. Then, you know, we have to find a place to whatever it's called, like find a leasing area, and then he has to pay like first and last security. He has to help us open up, you know, like with pictures on the walls, paint, all that stuff. So you're paying for all that. Plus the first month of, you know, you already pay the first month rent and all that stuff, but the first month of anything, you don't pay, the new owner doesn't pay any expenses. So you pay for every single little expense that comes through. So that adds up. You know, the admin, you're paying for everything. So that is like, they're like, yeah, go him. He just promoted 2 people. Woo! Everyone's cheerleading him. And then all of a sudden, he already wasn't really like super compliant as a person. And everyone knew that. He was just a guy that could definitely find people, motivate them, and, you know, get them promoted. And he got shut down because of compliance 2 months after he opened us up. So it was like a slap in the face. You spend your own money to open up someone, and then they can just shut you down after you open up these people when they didn't pay, Smart Circle didn't pay a dime, you know, to open them up. He spent his hard-earned money that was made through us selling to be able to get there. And then not only that, they give it to the owner in Missouri to be able to do that. And she doesn't have to pay a dime, you know, like she doesn't have to pay him any money back just to be able to make 3.5% off of us. And then I'm not sure about like if anything's changed or whatnot, but you know, you make like 3.5% of sales off like the promoting person, but you don't make that like your first month or so. You don't make that back for a little bit. So he didn't even have the opportunity to make the money back, which he totally could have made because we both stayed in business for long enough. He could have profited off of us and made that money back and probably made some. But she was just able to go in and just automatically start making benefits off of us without having to pay for anything of opening us up and doing any of the work. So that, I don't think that was fair. And it just shows that you don't run your own business at all. They can shut you down whenever.
Yeah. Now, I know that in your email, you talked about feeling guilty and finally waking up from what you say is this la la land brainwash. Why do you feel guilty?
I feel guilty because of the way that I treated people. Like, you know, it was just very robotic. Like, if someone was like, oh, you know, I'm sick, or, you know, my parents, you know, I have to take this person to the hospital, it would be like the way that the conversation was structured was just so like unempathetic. It was like, okay, well, you know, I understand that you have to deal with that. You know, I'm really sorry. You know, are you going to be able to still make it at 3 today? Like, what is that? You know, like, and that is the stuff that I had like a lot of stress to be able to like fill these events and no other people to be able to do it. And that was also what I was trained on. You know, like if you were to call anyone, it'd be like, well, they just obviously don't like the opportunity well enough. Like they're just making these excuses when in reality, like life really does happen. And you have to be able to like let people have days off when bad things happen. And then just the amount of hiring and firing that you have to do. Like I interviewed probably, I don't know, like we had slated like every single day, like 30 people, and maybe I would see half or like 60% or 40%, you know, so it would be like 12 to 15 people a day. And then like saying the same thing over and over again, with the same type of enthusiasm, hiring them, and then like it starts just to become like you are a robot and you're just trying to like get things going, and it just felt like more about me than about other people at one point. And it just, I felt bad the way that, you know, I had my friends that moved up with me and like things didn't work out well with us at the end, and like that's shitty, you know, like just the way that the whole entire system is just, I couldn't believe how brainwashed I got. And it bothers me about like, that's like the main thing that bothers me is like I was so deep into this that when I got out of it I was like, that I don't want to be that person. Like I wouldn't traveled for 2 months in Italy because I was like, who am I? Like I don't even know anymore. And so I had to like refine the person that I was before this all started, because I didn't even know what to do. I didn't know where to start anymore. Like I felt like everything was a script and it was scary. I almost like lost one of my best friends from it because she thought that I was like, well, when she left and she realized like, wow, I was being scammed. She thought that I was like running these meetings to scam people, and I wasn't. And she was like, screw her, I'm not gonna be friends with her anymore. Like she literally just like ruined my life by making me not have any money and like begging me not to quit by like throwing this at me and giving me these bonuses and like doing these things. And we had a really long conversation and like we're still best friends, but it took like her to realize that I was still brainwashed until I like was like, I gotta get out. Like I can't do this anymore. So you know, it is shitty to like admit that too, like that you like I feel dumb to just kind of overlook these things just because I wanted to be successful, and that's very immature.
So why do you feel it was so easy to be, as you say, brainwashed? Like, what did it for you? What was the hook that really got you invested into this?
For me, it was like I still love my promoting owner. Like he is awesome. Like, you know, I'm gonna go, like he just bought his engagement ring, like to go, you know, like my dad owns a jewelry store, so like I work there part-time, and you know, I was able to like help him out. And so like for me it was, you know, believing in him, and that was like, you know, a main thing. And we always had a lot of fun in the office, and my family again like comes from an entrepreneurial aspect, so I really loved the whole thing of being able to like work hard for something. And I also loved being able to teach people and like see it happen in the field. Like I wasn't obsessed with sales. I didn't like it. I didn't like being a Sam's Club, just like everyone doesn't like doing that. But what I loved about it was, you know, motivating a crowd and like setting up like the lesson plans for the day, and, you know, being able to see like how I was going to like make an aha moment. And like I loved reading about successful people and wanting to be successful myself. So it was really just about all of that that made me stay. And then when I did make quick money, when I finally got into ownership, I believed in it even more. And that's what I still talk to my family about, is like that's their, like these owners that like in the first 6 months, when they see like, probably some people might have made like 80. You don't know, like if they come with a bigger team, they see this money and they get, that's why you see like the first 6 months owners, like they're so motivated. It's like next level. And then go back like into their office in a year and a half. They're probably not the same way.
Those that are in the business today, they'll, because I've already talked to a couple, they've seen the film and they'll see this too. They will listen to what you say and they'll say you were a bad owner, or your promoting owner just wasn't cut out for it, and you know you weren't going to make any money anyway. They tend to categorize people who quit, or even if they make it to owner and leave, you know, oh, they just didn't cut it, they didn't have what it takes, it's not for everyone, or they're just a bad owner. So what would you say to that if someone were to see this and say, oh, she's just a bad owner and that's why she didn't succeed?
I would say that I've been there, and that's what I used to think like, oh, just stop it off. But like, you really have to think like within yourself of like what you're doing each and every single day, and think if like, are you really happy, or are you just lying to yourself? Just like I was literally sitting there every single day and just waking up and casting myself in all these lies that what we do every day is lie to people without realizing it. And you have to start like thinking more about the red flags of like, okay, this doesn't seem right. And wait, why doesn't it seem right? Don't just like put it over your head. Analyze all the situations, analyze why people are on your weekly calls of your how much money you make, or your weekly rotation calls or whatever they are for your money, and why people are giving you advice on how much money you just made on your last rotation and where you should be allocating and spending it and what you should be doing, and why didn't you make X amount of dollars, and why do you also have to call people and break down your day if you're not doing well yourself. Like, why do you have to do all these things? Why do you have to work until 10 p.m.? How long have you been in the business? Why are you not taking vacations? What's going on? Like, why are you lying to yourself?
So, what would you say to current day owners who still sell this as this life-changing entrepreneurship opportunity?
Man, it's a good question. What would I say to them? I was like, every day, like I want to like walk into a Sam's Club and just see. Actually, this happened to me. Oh my goodness, I have to share the story. Okay, so I was a new owner in Orlando, and I was selling whatever, probably body comfort, in Sam's Club, and it was like my first rotation ever. And somebody came, I went up to them, and he was like, "Oh, like, did you just get started?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm an owner, like, whatever." He was like, I own this," and he was like, "Oh, I used to do that too. One day you'll wake up and realize that." One day you wake up and realize that it's all a scam. And I was like, "What?" He's like, "You'll get old enough." He's like, "How old are you, 20?" And I was like, "Yeah, about that age." He's like, "You'll see soon. It's all a scam." And I'm like, okay. And then, it rings true because he was an owner, and he was trying to tell me about his story in the Orlando market, but there was a bunch of other people that I needed to talk to, so I had to figure out how to get my numbers up. So whatever, but that's kind of the same thing that I always wanted to do, is just walk into a Sam's Club or something and be like, "Get out now," and, so it's nothing like, no real advice except for like, you just need to, you're probably not going to listen to me until you realize it, but you do need to wake up and just start reading what is really happening, and actually like go and look at Devil Corp and read it, not just like say, "Oh my God, another negative person," like they teach you to, but just listen to what people have to say with an open mind, and not be so closed-minded about, we're not trying to scam you. You already been scammed. We are the real people that are talking to give you a point that is true because we've been there. And just like they say, like, listen to your elders, listen to the people that already messed up.
Yep. So in your email, you went a little bit further and said, I think this was after you closed down, quote, "I had to get a lawyer because they were holding all my money in their bank and wouldn't get it back." So when you're talking about, first of all, when you're talking about they, who is they, and what money were they holding? Were you talking about the money that you were making as an owner?
Right. So Smart Circle is they. So Smart Circle, basically, you have your own business entity that you're able to have money in, and then they also keep your money as well in their bank. So how that works is you have to, like, you will get awards. So those people that are holding all those awards are the people that have 50 grand or 25 grand or whatever it is, like in their holdings. So it's not technically, possession is 9/10 of the law. It's not technically your money. Like, I mean, it is, but like they'll be like, you have, like 10 grand in your bank account and you have 25 grand in this bank account. Well, you can't pull out that money unless if you ask them to transfer it over. And you have to definitely do that before you decide to quit. So once you decide to, like, if you make the decision that you want to leave, you need to be like, oh, well, I want, I need to put 15 grand into this bank account, because once you decide to quit, all that money that is in their account is frozen and you can't touch it when you decide to leave because you have all their inventory.
Right.
So you have to send back all of your inventory. They have to count it, and they have to, agree with you that they got all of it back, which is very risky because they could lie and say, oh, we never got, this whole pallet and you owe me 5 grand. So that's kind of what happened with me is I never ever had to pay for inventory once. I was always up. And then when I left, I actually talked to another owner who was leaving, who already quit. And she was like, good luck on getting your money back. And I was like, oh my God, I have a lot of money in there. Like, what do you mean good luck? She was like, yeah, I have, 5 grand in there. And they told me that I owe like $2,500. And unless if I agree that they can take the $2,500, they're not giving me any of my money back. So I've been fighting with them since October, and it was like now February. And she was like, so good luck on getting anything. And I was like, oh my goodness, like I need to, talk to my family about this because I'm probably going to get screwed. So I, ended up getting a lawyer to draft something when they were telling me that it was going to take like 6 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks to be able to get my money, and they had to like look at things and assess, and I'm like, this just sounds like bull. Like, no. So they ended up coming back saying that I owed like 7 grand for my missing inventory, and so they were going to actually wipe it out because I already sent them the letter. I think that this is just how it happened because everyone that I talked to says that like they were always like in a battle with how much money they owed, and they just kind of was like, well, we're just gonna we're just gonna like give you all your money. We're just gonna you're missing 7 grand, but it's okay. Like that doesn't happen. But I think it was just because I told them that I was gonna get lawyers involved. Like my friend that was fighting over getting, $2,500 and like getting some of her money back. She literally didn't have any money at all, so they're fiending over like these young kids that they can take advantage of. And for me, that's just what I was upset about, was thinking like, wow, I can't believe I got all my money back, but there's so many people that have gotten screwed. And there's so many people that, aren't sharing their story. And, of course they can say, see, she got her money back. Like, see, Smart Circle isn't bad. But there are other stories that are not like that. And that's why, I thought it was important to talk about, because that's mainly happening is there's too many people that are just, they can take advantage of because of the youth and the immaturity, not on just the manipulation side, but now they can manipulate you how they want you to allocate your money. And then they can just say, oh, well, you don't have enough inventory. And a lot of people, when they're young, probably aren't really good with inventory either. And I knew that it was very, very important because my past owner, he said he could have bought a brand new car with how much inventory he lost. So I knew that it was the most important thing for me because that's where they get you all the time. When I actually left, the Missouri owner, she asked me if she could have like my meetings and all that stuff. And at the time I wish I would have said no. I was just like, yeah, like get rid of it. And now I'm like, oh, it's because she's super scammy. And she didn't want me to have that stuff. She was like, oh, like, I'm about to promote someone, and, it'd be so much easier for me to just like give them, a book, because it's like so many meetings and you have to like put it in each little thing back and forth. And maybe some of it was true, but now I just think of like her as super scammy, and like, I just think that everything that she did was like for a reason, to be manipulative, and maybe that's not fair. But, for me, it was like, wow, she probably just didn't want me to have that stuff, because you never know. And then I talked to the Alabama owner. He ended up leaving, and like he was in it for longer than me. And, he was like, wow, like it's just crazy, just to see it all unravel, and like his brother got out of it too. And like, it's just compiling like what you really think. He thought that I left because I hit my goals. Like, that's what everyone was told, was that I hit my goals, and, I hit the amount of money that I wanted to make. So I left. And, that's why, like, they saw me traveling, and, my goal was to travel, but it was travel while I was doing the business, not when I was out of the business. And, I had to travel because I was so lost. I was like, let me just go somewhere and experience something, because I feel like I've never taken a day off in 3 years. I deserve this. So, but yeah, it's just crazy, like how they lied to everyone that leaves. Like, oh, she hit her goals. She hit her goals, so she's gone. No, I was wildly unhappy and depressed.
I've done a good amount of research into cults and cult mentality. It's kind of an interest of mine. It's amazing how the reframing and the language works, and they don't want you to say anything, and they don't want you to keep your materials or anything like that. It's only good for the insulated group. Yeah, there's a lot of parallels, along with those that say, oh, it's a scam, get out. You're conditioned to not believe that, like cults do too, because every cult has its critics. But if you hear about the critics while you're in the cult, it's like, oh, they don't know what they're talking about. And it's the same mentality. So it's frightening, considering how much power these businesses have, especially over younger individuals.
It is. It really is. I watched what is like a Scientology documentary, and I was like, oh my God. Like, it's scary, because, I can never see myself getting into that. But then I was like, but I was into the Smart Circle, which is just the same type of weird thing of a cult, like chanting. And, me and my friend, who was like in my office, we would literally go out with her friends in Orlando, and they would be like, you need to get out of this. It's a scam. Like, Jen, like, you're working too much. Like, this is crazy. And we would literally be like, it's not a scam. And we would fight it, like, with anyone that ever tried. And like, even if they were pulling things up, we'd be like, no, these people, they don't understand. They don't understand. And then you get out and you're like, wow, I didn't understand. You start realizing that it's like a scam, and then you're doing these things, and you're having these meetings, and you're not the same anymore. You're running these opportunity meetings. You're like, but I'm not making that. Like, now you're like looking at it from a different perspective, because you're outside of like your body. Like, you're like, wow, like, what am I doing? Like, I was just saying this stuff, like, me. And then, you start looking at it, you're like, I don't really want to run an opportunity meeting this week. I don't want to run another opportunity meeting this week. Like, so you stop wanting to run these meetings because you're not motivated yourself. You're like, this isn't real. And then, people are like thanking you in your office, like, thank you for giving me this opportunity. You're like, no, like, you should just quit, but I need you tomorrow. So you're like, yeah, no problem. And you start becoming this weird person. You're like, I got to get out of this. Like, I can't, I don't believe it anymore. And then I think that there's like a difference between like the people that still believe it, and like, you get to a point where maybe one day you won't believe it. And then there's the people that like have accepted that it isn't real. And then they decide that they're like going to be scam artists and just scam people. Like, I think that there's two, because there's some people that are like serious manipulators and they know exactly what they're doing. And then there's people that don't. And everyone gets to a point where they realize it. It's just what you continue to do after you realize it.
I know in your email you said they were incorporated in Delaware.
When you file your to get your taxes or something, it's I know that their corporation is in Texas.
Texas, yes.
So I took all my paperwork and I brought it to the lawyer to see what it was, and he's like, ooh, to be honest with you, we can bring this to court if things go wrong, but it's incorporated in Delaware, which means Delaware is the only state that is in favor of the corporation versus the employee. So if we were to take it to court, we might lose because they would favor, I probably wouldn't get my money back if it really went that far.
Yeah.
Because they favor the corporation. So they were smart enough, of course, to, put their taxes and their filings or their corporation in Delaware because it will always favor them. So that's how they're able to not really get in trouble and get sued, I think, because that's the state that favors the shit that happens. So
wow.
That's kind of to clear that up. Yeah.
So one of the things I'm always shocked with is how many of these owners just close up so quickly. I can't imagine, I never made it to owner, but I can't imagine you put so much into it to get there, and then once you get there, it's something that it's not, and then you have to de-intensify the brainwashing.
You also you lie to yourself. You're like, no, it's gonna be like that, because you also can't believe that it's not gonna be the way that it is. You're like, no, I'm just not doing it right. All these other owners are doing it right. I'm just not. What do I need to do to be better? I need to work more. I need to go out in the field. I need to train these people. So you don't believe these things because you weren't the person that believed in the scam to begin with. So you're not going to start automatically. That takes time for you to start decompressing and being maybe it's not me. Maybe it's this. Maybe it's that. Oh, wait, but that's a bad thought. I can't think like that. So it takes a while. And, at first I didn't understand. When I got out, I was like, how did I not see this right away? And then you start thinking back and you're like, okay, it takes a while for you to realize it if you were so believing. And I mean, I even wrote a Ripoff report too. I was like, let me warn people. Because I know that Ripoff report was a main thing, it doesn't go away. So Glassdoor, you can change your company, you can do all these things, which they do a lot, which we could also talk about, but they Ripoff report, they won't let you delete anything. So I knew it was the worst thing when you were on the phone with your marketing person and they'd be like, oh, Ripoff report was done, so we're gonna have to post a lot of blogs and a lot of things to get that down to the second page, but it's so hard to get Ripoff report to go to the second page, so you're pretty much just screwed. And that's why a lot of Smart Circle companies change their name.
Thank you so much for reaching out to us and for sharing your story. I know it probably was difficult for you.
Yeah, at first, when you re-emailed me back, I was scared.
Yeah.
And I consulted with a few people. I was like, should I do it? And they're like, just do it. I was like, I don't want to get in trouble. It just automatically scared me. And so that's why it took me a couple days to get back. And then everyone's like, just do it. It's okay. Ultimately, I know that it's helping other people, helping myself, just moving on. So thank you. It was awesome to be able to watch your documentary, and it really did hit home, and that's why it's awesome. You did a really good job with it.
Thank you.
You took a lot of things that we were because Rachel actually sent it to me, and I was like, oh my God, thank God someone has made this. This needs to keep going.
Yeah.
Because there is too many people that, are just, when you leave and you feel like that, there should also be something that they can be able to look at and see okay, you weren't alone. And then also people that are struggling and they fall upon this being okay, I need to get out and my feelings are right about this. There's a lot that your video will definitely make people so much happier in the long run.